y'all, Farmer Dre back at it. It's another beautiful day here on the farm, nice, sunny, and warm. Today's video is going to be how we pollinate our tomato blooms inside the high tunnels. Before we get started here, I want to give you guys a quick little tomato update. These are the tomatoes in the high tunnels. We got 3 rows of, on this side of red deuce, 3 rows of red deuce on this side. Actually, those outside edge rows are celebrity tomatoes just because the rats ate them all up there, so we had to replant some. But all these larger plants here are the first plantings here. So red deuce, Carolina gold tear down the center. And these are the baby plants we planted in here. These are going to go in our next tunnel here, but they're growing nicely as well. Reason I put them in here instead of the greenhouse is completely full. They weren't getting full sun. So like, you know what, let me just put them in here. So yeah, these will be ready in a couple weeks. Maybe not a week or so, it'll be transplanted inside number 2 there. But yeah, we got a ton of blooms on our plants here. We actually have, I mean, the majority of all the plants in here pretty much have a bloom on them now. So yeah, looking good, looking good. We got to keep that fertilizer and that water going to them. And of course, I got to come through and restake these. But look at that, we got a pretty fat tomato on here. So yep, tomato update, looking good. So I'll come through here later on this week and retrellis these one more time, put another string on them. It's a beautiful day out here, so we got a lot of work on the strawberries going on today, and apple trees are starting to bloom here, so we got a ton of work to do on the field. And it's supposed to rain here towards the end of the week, so when it rains, we do a lot of the high tunnel greenhouse work. But yeah, everything is looking solid. We're keeping the plants nice and healthy, nice and solid, no disease on them, so just keep it going. And hopefully we'll have the next 2 tunnels planted here before too long. So the big question is, how do we pollinate our tomato flowers in these high tunnels, or how do you pollinate tomatoes in general? So tomatoes are self-pollinating in themselves, meaning they have the pollen, the male and female parts of the flowers inside the flower itself. So you don't need to cross-pollinate like other types of fruit or vegetables. Like on apple trees, if you don't have 2 different varieties of apples to pollinate, cross-pollinate, you will not have an apple crop. With tomatoes, that's completely different. They are self-pollinating, so the male and female portions of the flower are inside the same flower, so you don't need much to pollinate the tomato. So whenever it comes down to it, it's very simple. What we do here on our farm is we have these high tunnels where we're growing everything in the soil of the ground here, and then we open up the sides, and of course that nice breeze blows through here, and all you need is a small little breeze or small little push of air to move the pollen from the top of the bloom here to fall on the female portion of the flower there to pollinate your tomatoes. If I give this flower a little flick here, you can see how that pollen is flying back and forth here. And that flower, the open flowers here, are already pollinated. So it just takes that simple and that easy to do it. Whenever we come down through it, if we haven't had the sides open for a week or so, or there wasn't much wind, I come through here and shake the trellis. And then just a small little shaking of the trellis here causes those blooms to shake and the plants to shake, and they will pollinate themselves. I personally have never had any issue on our farm with tomatoes pollinizing themselves. I know commercial greenhouse producers, they do bring in Bumble Bees to pollinate, or any kind of insect to kind of vibrate that flower to get that pollen to fall down into the actual blooms themselves. Bumblebees are very effective, but the only thing you got to keep in mind with bumblebees is if you bring in too many, they will destroy and they will harm your fruit after too many, because they just get so aggravated. The plants, the bees get so hungry for pollen that they come through here and shake the plants too much. I've seen over the years following people on YouTube and other farmers and going to conferences and meeting people and talking to people. The people do get toothbrushes, that the vibrating toothbrushes, and they come in here and just hit the crown of that, and they just kind of shakes there. But like I mentioned earlier, I've never had any issue with flowers pollinizing themselves in these high tunnels just because we open up the sides here. I come through here once a week and I do trellis the tomatoes here, and every single time I come through here with the string, I kind of move the plants around, and it's a small little shake like that. These plants will pollinize themselves, so there is no like I mentioned, there hasn't been a situation yet where these plants haven't been pollinizing themselves. So yeah, when it comes down to pollinizing tomatoes or pollination, it's very simple. We keep it simple here, and we don't have to complicate things. You got to watch out, especially with tomatoes, early tomatoes, especially in greenhouses or high tunnels. The only time where I've seen issue with pollination on a tomato bloom is whenever it's been too cold. So if your tomato blooms are have a temperature of below 42 degrees, then your bloom, that pollen doesn't set right in the flower portion, the portion of the flower where it needs to fall, because it's too cold and that pollen doesn't move back and forth. And then you run into the issue of having cat facing, and cat facing is where your tomatoes are scarred or have big old gashes in them. They have brown gashes in them. I fought that my first year because I didn't know what was a critical temperature, the critical low temperature for tomatoes, and I figured that out pretty quick. But as long as you keep your temperature, your night temperature and your high tunnels around 64 degrees, and you got plenty of air movement, or you move your trellis around, or you get some kind of vibration on those blooms, you will have great success with your tomatoes pollinizing themselves. So yeah, other than that, there's not much to it. It's not too complicated. As long as you're shaking your trellis a little bit, your plants will have a little bit of airflow coming through here. Just as long as those blossoms are moving and that pollen is falling in the right portion of the flower, you should be good with pollinizing your own tomato plants. Alrighty, y'all, that's gonna be it for today. Just a quick little video of me hitting on tomato flowers and tomato pollination. To me, it sounds very simple because I've been doing it for so many years, and I never actually thought about, the issue of not having pollination problems, just because, like I mentioned, we have the sides open and there's nothing to worry about. But, just keep it simple. Tomatoes will do their own thing. And this stage of growing tomatoes right now, the planting's done. I come through here and water them and fertigate them, put the fertilizer to them, and trellis them. There's not much to it. As long as you keep your eye on them and keep the plants disease-free and nothing going on, it's not too terribly complicated. It's something that, just kind of the plants just naturally grow. And hopefully in about a month or so, these plants will be at top of the T-post here, and we'll start harvesting some fruit. Usually it's about 50 days from open bloom to a ripe fruit. So all these blooms here in 50 days will be ripe tomatoes. This is going to be it for today. If you guys haven't already, go ahead and check out FarmerDreSupply.com. That's where you're able to find all your tomato gardening needs, from the fertilizers to the seeds you guys need to the injectors. Go ahead and check it out. Like always, a link is in the description of my videos. I want to say thanks for watching up to this point. If you guys haven't already, go and hit that subscribe button, smash that like button if you guys enjoyed today's video. Don't forget, hit that notification icon so you guys can be notified whenever I do upload a video. I want to say thanks for watching up to this point. Y'all have a good day, and we will see you next time.